Hello, welcome to Sinner Saint Sister. On Sinner Saint Sister, we might laugh or cry, we might get angry or motivated, we might grieve or celebrate, and sometimes all of those things can happen in the very same episode. We are a community of spiritual searchers who embrace Jesus' example of making a beeline to the hurting. Whether an episode is spiritual in nature, purely educational, or just for fun, my hope is that you finish the episode feeling hopeful. I hope you hear something today that lets you know you are loved and helps you love one another. Welcome to Sinner Saint Sister. I never thought I would have trouble aging. You know what I'd say? When my hair turns gray, I'm not going to dye it. I would say things like that. Until my hair turned gray. I was surprised when I turned 40, which was 5 years ago now, that a little mini depression settled in the month before my birthday. I don't tend to negatively obsess about things that I can't change, and so my feelings about my birthday, they were a surprise to me. I thought that I would welcome middle age with grace and nonchalance. And maybe I should have seen it coming because in the last couple of years, I had spent more dollars than I would ever admit on creams for my face that promised to turn back time. I would use them religiously for approximately 5 days. And I had started to notice the skin under my chin loosening. My daughter would play with it. It was like it was her lovey. My other daughter, she had tried to rub a varicose vein off of my leg. She thought it was marker. I had started to worry about hearing loss, not being able to see at night, incontinence, which truthfully was already a legitimate problem should I decide to cough or sneeze unexpectedly or, God forbid, jump rope. I was certain that my scoliosis was going to turn me into the shape of the number 7, and then I would never be able to find my cane in old age, and the nursing home was for sure going to make me do arts and crafts. So I had made my husband promise not to do anything special to celebrate my 40th birthday. He kept asking what I wanted, and truthfully, I just wanted to pretend it wasn't happening. Not only was I having trouble with that number, but it was just a birthday, which really, to me, it was the lowest rung of celebrations in my personal pecking order. They happen every year and everyone has them. If anything, I just wanted a quiet dinner with him one night. However, I didn't want to ignore the day completely because it did seem like quite the landmark. 40 whole years? I mean, I vividly remember being 12 years old and going to my mom's 40th birthday. It was a blast. The people there were so alive with recognition. Ironically, the house that it was celebrated in was decorated like a graveyard. Everyone wore black and gave toasts like she was dying. I'm pretty sure there was a hearse there. And so I started thinking about my mom, the way that she embraced, even taunted, turning 40. And it made me smile. And so I started thinking about who I was now, backed up against who I was then. And the number 40, it occurred to me, maybe it was worth some fuss after all, some recognition, some reflection. 4 whole decades, it can really change a person. So fine, I told my husband, I didn't want to let my birthday pass on by. These bouts of catastrophic thoughts, they weren't what I wanted my 12-year-old self to have in mind for my 40-year-old self anyway. I was thinking of my mom twirling into her 40s, life of the party. Something had to give. In the book of Genesis, Noah was asked to build an ark in order to spare his family and animals 2 by 2 from 40 days and 40 nights of rain. And at the end of 40 days and 40 nights, those sons and daughters of Adam and Eve saw the clouds part and knew that it was up to them to start again and to go forth wiser, wary, well-informed. The tumultuous, confusing, terrifying 40 days where they were tossed around against their will, it was over. There were clear skies now. They were responsible for what came next. And Moses, he led his people through the wilderness for 40 years before getting to the promised land. These people, they were just some motley crew gathering of irritable, skeptical, fickle, disobedient vagabonds. But after 40 years in the desert, those vagabonds emerged to the promised land as a whole. God took that band of misfits and he made them a people called Israel. And Jesus went into the wilderness too, led there by the Spirit, in solitude and prayer, fasting in the Judean desert for 40 days and 40 nights. This was before his public ministry, right after his baptism. And during those 40 days and nights, Jesus was tempted by Satan, but found strength to survive the desert's harsh conditions the tempter's seductions. And he fed on God's word. He found strength in doing his Father's will, and he got good and hungry and came into a serious encounter with his own soul, God's good heart, and what he was here to do. Number 40, it's all over Scripture. All over. 40 in the Bible, every single time is symbolic. When we see it, we can know that it means that something has been solidified, that something has changed for good, that something has been established, that something is a tried and tested version of what was resulting in restoration, revival, and renewal. The number 40, days or years, it's seen as a time of purification and preparation. And that all sounded about right. So I laid in bed my last night in my 30s, and I contemplated the lessons I've learned over the years. I realized there was a lot to celebrate. I've learned how to lean on the friendship of God. It took a long time. I've learned the value of a well-placed boundary, respect for myself, and embracing exactly who God made when he knit me together, and then insisting on others' respect. It affects everything. How I wife, how I parent, how I work, how I view politics, how I use social media, read a post, how I watch TV, how I spend our money, where we live, where I shop, how I eat, which friends I invest in, how I discipline my children, when I speak up, when I stay quiet. Speaking of quiet, I've also told some discouraging voices to shut up. I've tamed my inner critic. You know, that voice that asks, who do you think you are? Or what if your idea doesn't work? Or you have nothing in common with those people. They'd never accept you. Or you have nothing new to say. You should just quit. At 40, I can so much more easily recognize the voice of an enemy, not the voice of an informant. And then I can just step over it and get on with my mission. And that voice might come from the depths of my own security. It might come from another person, but whatever its source, its bottom source is an enemy. And after 4 decades of life, it is so much easier to filter out, walk away from, and just get on with what the Lord has asked of me. So much of my growing up on my list, it's private, it's personal and sacred. But a lot of it, I want to scream from the rooftops for everyone to hear. Hopefully some 20-year-olds who could maybe get a head start on living a much less complicated life. In the end, my husband rented a small room in a nice restaurant with 5 of my very best friends and their husbands. And the laughter was loud and the toasts were long. There were no hearses. And I'm not sure that I've ever felt more loved in my whole life. I look in the mirror and I know that I'm not finished yet. But I do know that 40 is the marker of something holy. Dawn Barton, she believes strongly in women loving themselves their whole lives long. And she believes in new miracles for new moments, which is why she's written a book to celebrate God's plan for the second half of our lives. Dawn is a believer and an encourager and a truth teller, and she's pointing ahead with so much enthusiasm that it's impossible to not want to sprint alongside her. You're going to love this talk. Hello, Dawn. It is such a treat to have you on the show today. Welcome to Center Saint Sister.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You are so welcome. I am a new follower, Dawn, and one of my very favorite things about following you is your love of women and your enthusiasm for community. I feel like you are such a great gatherer, and this world is in such desperate need of inclusion and seeing people clearly. And I feel like you create really, really wonderful, inclusive, holy spaces for women to gather and to get to know one another. It comes through so clearly in your life's work. And it's just really a true honor to have you on and to sit at your feet for a while we get to know one another. Welcome.
Thank you. That makes me feel so good. I think it's the most underestimated thing in the world for us women is that to be together, to
just be together. It's so simple, isn't it? In fact, I know that you do a lot of work in a retreat type setting. And it's funny because I was thinking of planning one on my own, and I was really just banging my head up against a wall about how to create the perfect retreat. And then I went to one, I was invited to one, and it was as simple. The programming was as simple as introducing ourselves. You had 10 whole minutes, which that's a long time, right?
Yeah,
to introduce yourself. And then the other half of it was just coming up with your 3 biggest dreams. And then you broke up into smaller groups and 3 different times and told your dream. That was the programming. And it was one of the most powerful spaces I've ever been in. And it was just so simple. We just need to be together. So.
Yeah, I think so. We do the same kind of thing a little bit, but we gather on the Friday and then we pray on Friday night about what the direction is that we really focus. So my older daughter came to the last one. She goes, "Wait, are you planning a retreat at the retreat?" Kind of, yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah, a little.
That's funny. Well, I would love for you to introduce yourself to listeners. I just explained my favorite things about you, but I would love for you to introduce yourself to people who might not know you by telling us a little bit about who and what you love.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm an author, a speaker, but what we just said, kind of one of my favorite things is I'm a host to 5 retreats a year. And, but I'm a mom and a grandmother. I have this way of life that's a little unusual in that we live on 23 acres with my husband and our 16-year-old. My mother-in-law lives in the house. My parents live next door. We have horses, we have dogs, we have cats. So just the whole thing, and a partridge and a pear tree. But yeah, that's life. But it's a little here, there, and everywhere. And I wouldn't change a thing. My background, though, is that how I even came into all this is that I was in sales and marketing for 30 years and I had a dream. God said, write a book. I know people always think you're a little crazy when you say something like that, but that is actually what happened. Yeah. And the next morning I Googled, how do you write a book? And I left everything. I was the number 7 sales director of Mary Kay Cosmetics out of about 600,000. Left it all.
Goodness.
To write this book. The book became a bestseller, and I got the award of New Christian Author of the Year, and it was just like this great story. And then I just now have my second book coming out. So it's just crazy the things, that life has, the turns and the twists throughout life.
Gosh, that is amazing. I would love to dive in to your latest life's work, like where God has you super specifically, which is this idea of a midlife renewal. I feel like it is just so important. I know so many women, Dawn, and I know you do too, that feel like life is passing them by. That feel like they have so much more to give and just feel a little bit stuck. And so this topic of celebrating middle age has become really important to you. I would love to know how and why. Was there something specifically that happened? Was there any moment or any set of moments that really drew you to this?
Yeah, absolutely. I had the proverbial midlife, crisis. I wrote the first book and then we moved to this big property and I stepped into this role of caretaking. And I remember being like, am I done? Like, was that it? Did the fat lady sing? Am I a racehorse that just got put out to pasture? I felt a little invisible, kind of forgotten, and had a big old pity party. And the more that I talked to my girlfriends, because I was in a season where I was sort of isolating a little because of circumstances. It kind of goes back to what we're saying. You got to get with each other. And as I started talking with my girlfriends, at the time I was 50, we were all experiencing the same thing, this kind of like pulling back from the world. And I wasn't sure why, because if you think about it, we're literally the best we've ever been. Like our boobs are not the best they've ever been, but the rest of us is.
Yeah,
we are
details,
the best
right?
we've ever been. Yeah. And why we sort of hand the microphone over to a girl and this 20-something with doesn't even know what chin hairs are yet. I don't know why we're doing that. Like we have so much to give to this world. It's not the time to pull back.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I just recently, I was in our kids play sports at this, church league, and the interns have the microphone, and it's always in enthusiastic and lovely. They're so excited to have the microphone. And I was looking around, and I think that there's a space for that. I'm not saying,
No, absolutely. Yes.
one in place of the other. I'm not saying
No,
that. I'm just saying I was
Collective.
looking around and had this moment of, yeah, but I wonder what she'd say,
Yeah.
and I wonder what, just biblically, I feel like when we're asked to think biblically, we're asked to think big. And so I think that there is, room for all of it. But I was looking around the room at this crown of gray hair, right? And I was like, man, I want to know what they have to say. I want to know, their perspective on things. But we absolutely live in a culture that values accomplishment, that values beauty, even, that maybe even I think that you could say as strongly as it despises aging. I'm just curious, like, if you were to answer for the world, and then if you were to answer biblically, so there's kind of two questions in here. What do you think comes to mind for the world when it hears the word midlife? And then what do you think should come to mind when we hear that word midlife?
Yeah, that's so good. I think that I truly believe that the world is shifting on its view of midlife. And maybe that's because I'm in it. I'm being positive. I'm like, no, we're really cool and the world loves us. But it actually, even if you go, let's just say statistically, women 45 plus, we're the decision makers for most of the dollars spent in the world. Like, we are the most sought after demographic than any other, women 45 plus. Like, we're what marketers want, we're all that, but they haven't been able to figure out how to do it well. It's actually been a really big problem in the marketing world, because I think we have changed so dramatically. You look at a woman that was in her I think a great example is, what's the name of the show? With the older Golden Girls. The Golden Girls were the same age as, and they did that Sex and the City reboot.
Yes. I
they
saw
were
that
the
picture.
Same age.
Yeah.
And so I think we've changed so much. And I do think we have a
great
society
point.
that raises up youth, and of course, and the hard bodies and all of that. But, biblically, it really raises up wisdom. So you can't have a world that is devoid of the wisdom. I think Malcolm Gladwell wrote that book talking about that experts are with 10,000 hours of something. I'm probably butchering it, but he basically says you're an expert when you've done something for 10,000 hours.
Right.
Well, women 45 plus have had 10,000 hours on a lot of things.
Yes.
On a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So why we don't stand on the top of mountains and just yell about that, I don't know. So I'm hoping that the new book really is a battle cry for women.
When I turned 40, it was this really liberating experience. I'm 45, but when I turned 40, I woke up and I remember, like thinking and then writing it down. I wish I was born 40. I mean, there was so much confidence that comes with having been around the block a few times. I knew exactly who I was. I'm not wrestling with what culture's demands of me were. It was really just living the life I actually have, accepting the body I actually have, and so it was just all this calm acceptance. And I do think that there is a great deal of wisdom involved with just a calm acceptance, and not trying to strong arm like, one thing or another. I know that so much of our culture's value system is based on productivity. And I'm with you that I don't think I've ever been more capable of being more productive, because I'm having, frankly, better thoughts, based on these, a handful of experiences, this life's work. I think that there's a lot to the calm acceptance of middle age.
And there's something powerful about, I think one of the, at 50, I was even better than 40. And, but everyone said, oh, 40 is so great. And then the people in their 50s like, oh, 50 is so great. And then people now in their 60s like, oh, 60 is so great. So, I kind of had, and I had a little line that I wrote about it, that I had this kind of giggling thought that God packages us so well in with the outside stuff when we're young, because the inside stuff isn't nearly good enough. But as we get older, the inside stuff gets so good that the
Yeah.
outside stuff can go a little, it
Yeah, right.
just
I love
because
that.
inside is so rich. Yeah.
Well, so that makes me think of, I kind of have this centering question. If like things kind of start to go off the rails, there's this
Yeah.
centering question of, okay, what am I created for? What am I created for? Because it's not to be beautiful. It's not even to be productive, even though I feel, pretty productive right now. It is really to know God. I am created to cling to God. So I feel like that can be a just a helpful thing to keep me between the ditches, when I start worrying about because what do you think about this, Dawn? The truth is, Shauna Niequist on the she was on the show last year, and she said this quote that her mom told her, and Shauna was having a hard time with something, and her mom said, "Hey, just so you know, there was at some point in my 40s, everything kind of quit working at the same time." And she was just kind of giving fair warning for this gets hard right about now. And so there are real things that we're dealing with in midlife. Right. We are dealing with menopause. We are dealing with children that are becoming more independent. We are dealing with parents who are becoming more dependent. And change is disorienting. So there are facts that are happening right now. In your wisdom around this time in our lives, what are some things that given that set of facts, what are some things that we should be embracing? And what are some things that we should be letting go?
Well, gosh, that's such a good thing that you shared about what you're saying, because we do change so much. I think it's funny that I wrote a book on midlife, and I actually never have gone through menopause. And the only reason is because I had cancer, and cancer threw me into it. And so I never, all the things my friends talk about, I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. But I had a boob cut off. So, there's some, like, we're even now. But I do think we change. Oh gosh, it's so different with all the different physical changes. I think we have to be in conversation with one another about that. Yeah. I don't think that God is calling us through this, what I don't call it a midlife crisis. I think we view it as like there's this mountaintop and we're at the top and we're about to start going downhill. And that's absolutely not correct at all. God doesn't say to us, oh gosh, you're 50, you're 45. Here's your number. Thanks for coming. Thank you so much. If you'll sit over there and watch some Netflix for a while, thank you. We'll call you up when your time's done. He calls you to honor him and to be the light of Jesus all the way through, not just, once your kids are gone, but that pivot season is a redefining of identity a little bit. And that's where we get stuck. But we also go through the same thing kind of when we have little kids. Remember the season where you're like, have I showered this month? Is this a poop or spit up? I don't know on my clothes. You're like, where did I go? What happened to me? So there's a redefining there. Yeah. But there's also that redefining as the kids are older and life is maybe not, I did not envision stepping into a caretaker role. I don't know why. I mean, it seems, but I didn't. Yeah. And it throws a lot of curveballs at you, but it's a really wildly fantastic season if you'll let it be.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's easy to accept the change of little kids because it's so physical. It's so like I felt like just getting my kids into the car was this athletic event that I wasn't very good at, frankly, and so it required so much of my body that there were things that I were up against on the daily that absolutely required my acknowledgement. And there's something about this that feels a little more mental and emotional and spiritual. Like the little kid season was just so physical. Right. Whether it was that I wasn't getting enough sleep, whether it was, just the energy from, chasing toddlers. And so this deep dive into how I'm feeling and my thoughts around this thing have been a challenge. I think this might be life coaching 101. I don't know much about life coaching, but if you have this fact that is neutral, this is how many years I've been on earth. Like that's a neutral thing. But then I have thoughts around that neutral thing. And then those thoughts make my feelings, and then those feelings make my actions. So if I have the neutral thing, and then my thoughts around, oh, I'm 45. Oh, all the best is behind me, and then that thought makes me feel a certain way. And then that feeling makes me act a certain way. Well, I guess I'm stuck, And so when I think about my thoughts and emotions and then how it guides my actions, it's been really important for me to separate myself from my thoughts. I am not my thoughts. I'm an observer of my thoughts, but I can change those. How might we change our thoughts around midlife? Like, what are some things that you're specifically thinking about this?
So I want to say as a mother with a 16-year-old, I am trying everything in me to have her homeschool all her life and all through college. So she stays with me. And then we have a main house and a guest house. And then maybe by then she can get married and they'll live next door.
Sure.
And she'll never, because that seems really healthy and perfect.
Yes. And backyard barbecues and yes.
So just to say, I am handling that piece really well. So you could probably get coaching from me. But I think we have this invisible line in life in our minds.
Yeah.
And to one side of it is all of God's great miracles in our lives, our babies, our marriage, our careers, all the fun, exciting things we did because we were more physical, all these beautiful miracles. And we believe that on the other side of that there might be a few, but our life will be a lot more devoid of that. So the first thing we have to do is to change the mindset, because what an insulting thing to God to think he only gives miracles in a certain season of life. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, I wrote my first book at 50 years old. I mean, that's, that I'm finally figuring out some of my favorite things to do in life in my 50s that I want to be when I grow up. And I can't imagine what my 60s has in store. So, but I think it's a change of mindset for sure. And at the most basic level how dare we believe that we are that we love a God that's only capable of great miracles on one side of our life.
Yeah, I love that thought. That's such a great idea. But I have this, I wrote this down the other day, and it was, my thoughts need supervision. It's like, but then separating myself from them. Like that I can have that thought, and then I can not cement it. I can let that float on by. I'm a Christian yoga instructor, and I'm always talking about letting our thoughts float on by. Okay, you get to go, And so I love the things that we don't need to attach anything to that. That one can just go. So I love the reframing of God is capable in every single season. There's this piece of scripture, and it talks about I wish I knew it. You might actually. But it talks about being green and still full of sap, and it's basically saying, like, I can still flourish, I can still, there's still green in me, and there's still just a lot of life left, And so what are some things that you attribute, youth? What are some things that seem youthful to you that we can still very much practice in our midlife or in our older age?
So when I went through that midlife crisis of mine, I got super on purpose about falling back in love with myself and figuring out who I was again.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't falling back in love with a woman in her 20s, because, that girl I don't want to be who I was in my 20s. I want to figure out who I was today. So it started, you're going to laugh. It started with something as simple as I walked in my closet and I looked at it, and it was like black and gray and taupe. And I was like, this is the saddest, forlorn closet I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I started a notes thing on my phone, and I was like, my favorite color to wear, my favorite color in my home. And and then I went to fragrances because I noticed I had some fragrances I had purchased because they were popular or so-and-so like, you know what I mean? But I was like, what do I like? What smell do I like in my house? What smell do I like on my body? Do I like any smell on my body? And I went through this all the way down to panties and bras and just finding myself again. And it was quite the journey. And then I shared it with the world. It was called 21 Days to I Love Me, just 21 days of doing all those steps.
Oh my gosh. That answer delights me so much. I mean, what if youth is something as simple as red lipstick? What if,
I think half the time it is. Yeah, right? It really.
That's so great. So I was with someone this weekend. I was celebrating a friend's birthday, and I was at a beach house and with some people that I didn't know. And someone mentioned their age, and I was shocked that this person was over 50. And I was thinking about what was it that shocked me? Because it wasn't that she necessarily looked that much younger. You know what it was? She laughed so easily and so loud. And I thought, oh my gosh, what if youth is something as simple as being an easy laugher? How great is that? Throw on some red lips and laugh a lot. I am in.
That is so good. And I think that captures exactly what I was saying, in that we start to pull back, and we even pull back in the amount that we laugh, right?
Yes.
And how bold our lipstick is. And, I'm too old to do that. I'm too old to have my hair like that. We tell ourselves this lie of like, do all the things, I am too old for a tube top. I cannot carry off a tube top. But other than that.
Speaking of those things we should probably let go of.
That.
Just the tube top so far. Oh, that's great. I love, you just started a couple of sentences with, oh, I'm too old for that. Or maybe even it's something like, oh, that's too risky, or I won't know how to do that, just feeling like it's something that someone younger would be better at or whatever. What if you could just reframe that sentence of, oh, I'm too old for that? What if it was something as simple as, I'm open to being wrong that I'm too old for that? Like I could be wrong that's too hard for me. And so if we can take captive that thought and just change the wording just a little bit, that leaves a little bit of room for some possibility. Right. I mean, I think that could be pretty transformative just in our thought life.
If you have that, if you are, you and I were briefly discussing a little business venture I was thinking of. And, but if you are coming at a business venture, an idea, a thought from being on the top of that mountain and you're about to go downhill, why would you ever want to enter into anything if your mindset is that everything's going to be downhill from here? So if we go back to reframing that mindset of that, this is when it gets good. The second half is always the best half. This is going to be, the best of it. We are equating our level of happiness with our fitness level. I think when it comes down to it, we are saying, do things get harder? Do our knees start to hurt? Do you think, are some of those physical things different as we age? Yeah. I mean, because that is a reality, but everything else is so much better. But why we let that small little thing be the definition of why the next year's wouldn't be great is ridiculous.
Right. And then just making healthy adjustments. I was reading she's in her 70s, and she's just a mentor of mine. And she was very factually stating her current limitations, and that it was a season of transition, because she used to be really great at having people in her home all the time. She used to be really great at delivering meals all the time. And she has recognized, I can't do those things anymore. And that's a season that has passed. However, I have become so diligent about scripture and reading that I can encourage people in other ways. And so someone, and this is the beauty of symbiotic relationships of, of community and gathering people in honesty, is saying what you need and then recognizing I can feel that. So she said, you know what? I would have, had you frozen dinners for a week, and I can't do that anymore. Is there something that I can do? And this younger woman in a season of need said, you know what? I do not feel in tune spiritually right now at all. And it's really hard to pray right now. And this woman said, I've got that. And she sent her a different scripture every single morning and prayed for her the first 30 minutes of her day. I can do that, and so I love accepting these limitations that you're talking about, whether it's, a physical achiness or a lack of stamina for having people in my house, once a week or whatever. There are things that we can do that our wisdom allows us that is just as good, if not better.
And don't you feel like, I wish every young woman, it was required that she sit at the feet of a 7-year-old woman, right? Like, oh my gosh, the stuff is so rich because they've done so much, right?
Exactly.
So, oh yes, what a beautiful thing. Gosh.
If there was, so in your book, can we just brag about your baby for a minute? Can we talk about your book? Tell us the title, and then I would love for you to give us like a key message. Like if you could just send us off with one thing that if you wanted to take us by the shoulders and say, I need you to know this. Tell us about your baby and tell us about what she would say if she had a second.
Oh gosh. Well, she couldn't say it in a second because she comes to me and we had the complete inability to say anything quickly. When people are like, can you give me the 10-second spiel? I'm like, actually, I cannot. No.
No elevators here. Just up and down and up and down.
Just up and down. We're going to go a lot. Yeah. But it's Midlife Battle Cry, Redefining the Mighty Second Half. And it is a book that, it's funny. It's sitting with a girlfriend and laughing together, but also a little bit of a gut punch. It's a battle cry and a hug. And I hope and I pray that after reading it, women throw it to the next girl and just go forward full force, that they are just like, world, here I am, that they do stand on the top of mountains and tell the world that we are still here. We're not forgotten and we're not done.
Yeah. It's so important. I'm just in a season with a lot of women that are feeling a little stuck, and I really feel like it's reframing a lot of these thoughts around where we are. And as I have followed you, I have noticed that everything you approach, it is with enthusiasm. There's no shrinking back from you, Dawn. It is just all bold and bright and enthusiastic. And I've just really gained a lot from your desire to gather people and love your women well. It's really, what's its due date? When's its birthday?
May 9th.
May 9th. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly when this will release, but May 9th, if this is before or after, go ahead and buy 2 copies. Where would you like us to follow? I know that you have a lot going on. Do you have time to talk about your retreats that you offer? I would love to let people know about that other line of work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we do, I do 3 regular retreats, 2 retreats, and the next one coming up is in September. We limit it to 15 women. And the focus is exactly where I was. So if you're in a season of feeling a little lost, you're flailing, you're not quite sure on what your purpose is anymore, your identity, all those things, and you just need somebody to kind of give you that big kick in the hiney for that pivot point. That is what it is. But most of all, it is a gathering where I hope and I pray that women find friends for the rest of their lives at every retreat. And the friendships that have happened, we limit it to only 15 people each time, because I think that profound intimacy, creates those kind of friendships and relationships. So we have one in September, and then in the spring we do a free retreat for moms of special needs kids, and it's free to them. I do it to our local community. It's my favorite thing I've ever done. I've never felt so unqualified to do something, to sit in this room of these moms that each one is like 1,000 moms and one mom, just like, oh, my heart. Yeah. And then we do an alumni. So really, to the public, there's 2 retreats a year that they can attend, and it's one in the fall, one in the spring.
Awesome.
That's a long answer, huh?
No, I love it so much. You and I were texting yesterday, and I just feel when someone has agreed to carve out space like that for themselves, that someone has just made themselves open enough to leave their home and to go into someone else's space with that kind of availability. I feel like God moves so effortlessly because people show up open and expectant. And I feel like those are just such precious things to the Lord. Retreat spaces are just my very favorite. And I'm a special needs mom, so I feel like maybe Dawn, our paths might cross.
I'm all in. Yes, I love that. And I think one of the biggest, the reason that God shows up so much in instances like that is because it is scary. I mean, to go to a retreat where you know no one, you push through fear to get, anytime we're pushing through fear and we're scared to do something and we step into it, oh, it's beautiful.
Agreed. The Lord loves faith. It's faith. Yeah. Okay. Tell us where to follow. We would love to support you. I have been following along on Instagram, but are there other spaces? Tell us all the things.
I am most active on Instagram. I'm still the person I'm not cool enough that somebody else is answering anything of mine. It's all me. So Instagram is Dawn R. Barton. And then Facebook is also Dawn R. Barton and dawnbarton.com. Yep.
Awesome. Guys, go follow. It just a splash of joy for your day. I hope that it's a compliment that I keep talking about how glittery and sparkly and optimistic you are. You add a lot of color to my day, and I really, really love following along.
That is such a great compliment. So thank you. Yes.
Well, we are excited for Midlife Battle Cry. And I just want to thank you for your example. I feel like, you mentioned sitting at the feet of someone older. You are not older than me. That's not what I'm saying. But I know that younger women follow along. And I just want to thank you for starting early, reshaping our thoughts around this really, what can be a really, really exciting time, because we know just who we are and we have learned how to cling to the Lord, because sometimes it is the very only thing we have. And, just getting that identity right just helps us walk well. And you're a perfect example of that. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the ways that you live your life.
Oh, I just love you. I'm like,
I love you back.
To go eat lunch now?
I know, exactly. Yes, exactly. You and me and some good food and drinks on a porch. That just needs to happen. Thank you, Dawn.
Yoga.
Yay!
I even do yoga with you. That's a lot.
Well, and see, this is a midlife accomplishment, because I know so many younger people that are all anxious about, well, I'm not going to do it well. And what yoga says is, no, there's no such thing. Doing it well is just being available for the experience. It's being fully present. And if I really feel like a good sign of maturity is how capable we are of being fully present with someone. I feel like it's a gift that comes with age. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Lots of dates for you and me, Dawn. Here we go.
Yeah, deal.
I'm so happy to know you. Thank you for coming on. Good morning, Beefinator.
Hi, Beefy Beef Beef.
Hello. So I love that we get to do this, because you and I are not the type to say FaceTime. And so every now and then there will be periods of time that have gone by where I have not seen your face. And so I love that. I haven't seen you in a while. Hello.
Hello. So glad to be here.
Did you love Dawn Barton? You love her, don't you?
I do love her. To me, Dawn is like the personification of all the best parts of like a slumber party. She's like comfortable and supportive and fun. There's something like very chill about her tone, like just comfortable and makes you feel safe to be vulnerable. That's what I picked up from just listening to her. So I can only imagine like actually being with her.
Right. I love that translated, because sometimes like the guest and I will be like having a vibe and you just hope that that's available to a third party. So I love that, because you described that exactly. Okay. So we've talked a lot about slumber parties on the show. I would love to hear 3 things or ish, whatever, just a tiny little list of what makes a great, 3 things that make a good slumber party guest. And then what are some 3 things that make a bad slumber party guest? Like
adult, like current slumber party?
Whatever. Okay.
I don't care. So, all right. I'm going to do adult slumber party, but you got to bring in like the old school. So great slumber party guest is showing up with good wine. But then for a throwback to the old school slumber party, she also must come with a good giant tube of cookie dough, because that was critical.
Nice. Okay. Yes. I love it. That's really
I
good.
need you showing up in jammies with like a messy bun and a face mask to share, right? We'll be wearing those, and we need to have them both. Yes.
Matching jammies.
I could
if you just want to push that over the edge.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be too demanding, but that would be good. And then, like makes me think of Dawn, just like with a plan to like solve 0 problems or make 0 plans, to just like be. Those are my
no agenda.
Advice.
No agenda.
Yes. What about you?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that's really great. But for great party guest, this one might make you laugh, but I want to throw in somebody who talks in their sleep. That is a great time.
That is a good time. Okay, I'm here for that. Okay, bad ones.
Bad. Okay, bad ones.
Okay, terrible invite. Shows up, so it's going to be the opposite of the first one, right? Shows up with an agenda, shows up with like a craft or like a project to like work on while we're catching up.
Okay. Or like for an adult, like with work, like, sorry, I have this work thing.
No, we're not doing that.
No,
we're not doing that.
Yeah.
I also don't want to like work on your needlepoint. Like, we're not doing that. We're just
don't be distracted. Look at me.
Exactly. So, okay. And so, but look at me, but I don't want you to be like an overshare that's trying to like control the conversation or
dominate.
An undershare who like is like lacking vulnerability, like to get in there and talk about all the things.
Goldilocks situation here. Not too much, not too little. That's right.
And then like, okay, if we're having a slumber party, somebody that like wants to go out or like be out on the town or something. I mean,
or like needs to be uber entertained or something. Like,
right.
What are we gonna?
Unless they want to like go to Target or something, I can do a Target run, but like nothing else. We're not going anywhere else.
I mean, with the app, let's have it delivered.
Good point. That's a good point. Yes. Do you have a terrible one?
Somebody that wants to go to bed early, like somebody that wants to. You know how sometimes, and I'm sympathizing with this more and more, so let me take it back if I need to, but like people that are like, I'll stay for the party, but then I want to go to my own bed.
No. I know. Bring your pillow. It's okay. Nobody's judging anymore, but like stay the whole night.
Yeah. Okay. That was good. That was fun.
It's like when you're a kid, nothing good happens after 11. At a slumber party, everything good happens after 11.
100%. Yeah. Okay. Unless you're the person that fell asleep first or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So I love this idea of staying hopeful our whole lives long.
Yep.
What were some things that you walked away with after all of that optimism about our second halves?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like it stings at first when you think about the second half, but then when she started talking about the second half and all the hope and all the new things, it was definitely like an opportunity to think about things that like I haven't thought about it before. I think I sometimes still think I'm in that first half, but I'm not. But the first thing that came to my mind was my grandma and like what a great example she is for me. So my grandma is 94 years old. She insists on living by herself and she is all but blind. And she very much, that's what she wants. And so Beef, I don't even know if you know this. She works out not once, not twice, but 3 times a day. And when I say workout, I'm not like with weights that are 10 pounds, to which I said to her when she told me this recently, you mean like 5 pounds each and add up to 10, of course. And she said, no, ma'am, they are each 10 pounds. I don't think that's something I could do right now.
We're not going to make you prove it, Beef.
Yeah, no. But she she can't see, she can't drive. And so she's just continues to modify her life. She'll just say like, I keep having to make younger friends. I keep having to make younger friends because my friends are going to heaven. And so she now regularly has people to her home and she entertains. She gets little frozen things and she, gets a drink that she can pour easily without having to prepare. And she still serves her friends like physically like that with things, but then she's there to listen. And she has lots of friends that live in nursing homes. She's on the phone all the time because that's what she can do right now, right? Is to reach out to them. Several of them have dementia. She has got all the patience in the world. And she just knows that is an absolute gift to those people right now. And she's willing to, I don't know, be humble or accepting of that. This is what she has to give right now. And she's giving it 100%. It's really, really awesome.
Mimi, we love you so much.
Yes.
It's so great. I feel like you said the word acceptance. And I think I said that a couple of times in the interview with Dawn, just this calm acceptance of what our circumstances are and being happy and joyful with the lives that we are actually living. And I feel like relinquishing control, is such a spiritual practice for me. It's like there is something so holy about not insisting on ideals or on these perfect plans or for the love, like trying to strong arm a clock. Hello, that's not happening. So just the calm acceptance and truly putting things in God's hands and then believing, like with your heart and mind, like truly believing that things will be better that way. Like in his hands, there is an inner peace that comes with that. And I feel like I'm always kind of after it, Yeah. So is there anything in particular that you are looking forward to in the second half of life?
So, gosh, I think I actually just talked to my grandma yesterday. And one thing that we talked about is she's so overwhelmed with the busyness of my life. And she talks about how she just has all the time in the world. And so nobody's loving that space perfectly right now. But when I think about being a little bit older, I think, and I will regret saying this, I will regret saying this, but just being less busy, right? There's so many things in the season that our kids are in right now with sports and activities, especially at this time of the year. So just being less active and more reflective, I hope.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I am going to embrace my loose filter. I'm just going to...
You're on your way already, girl.
I feel like that when you get to be old, you get to say whatever you want. Just the other day, I posted about this because it was completely delightful. I got cussed out by this lady because it had rained the day before. It was super wet outside. She's shuffling along. I mean, every bit of 85. She's shuffling along. I pull over and I said, ma'am, I am completely harmless and it would be all my pleasure to take you wherever you're going. And she goes, damn it. Would you people just leave me alone? I'm trying to get my steps in. And at this rate, I'm never gonna get out of here while it's all raining. And she's motioning at the rain that's not happening. And she must have cussed at me at least 4 times. And I'm like, I am so sorry to detain you, ma'am. Yep. I hope you have a lovely day. And I was just so thrilled that she's out there getting her exercise, that I live in a community where apparently dozens of people, maybe I was the third and she's just short on patience, but are pulling over to help her. And she is just confident and determined enough to say exactly how she feels, that she has lived long enough to not have to pretend that she likes me or that I'm being helpful. I was so delighted. I can't wait.
Those are life goals. So you're going to be shuffling, cussing all the people out. I'm going to be next to you with my 10-pound weights.
That's right. Yes. On it. Love you, Beef.
Love you. Bye.
I am so, so grateful for you, listener. If you liked this episode, could you please do me a favor and hit subscribe and leave a review? It really helps the show grow, and I would be so appreciative. Thank you so much to our guests who share their gifts so generously with us, and a special thank you to Taylor Schroll, who does so much behind the scenes to make the show great. If it weren't for him, I would still be in my closet with my iPhone. You can follow along at Forte Catholic as well. That's Taylor's show where I show up now and again. And to keep up more regularly, please follow along on Instagram Instagram at Allison M. Sully or TikTok at Sullivan Family TikTok. See you next week.
Today's show was a production of Allison Sullivan in conjunction with the Forte Catholic Podcast Network. For more great Catholic podcasts, head on over to fortecatholic.com/podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts.